Hello, what is up guys? Eman from Peso Smart PH here. Welcome sa panibagong episode. Shout out to all the podcast listeners as well. I appreciate you all. Today, let's talk about FMETF, First Metro Philippine Equity Exchange Traded Fund Incorporated. Before we get started, I just want to remind everyone that this video and all of the information in this video is not financial advice. Make sure that you do your own research first before you buy any kind of asset, whether that's stocks, equities, or cryptocurrencies. Let's get started. First off, let's define what is an ETF. An ETF is an exchange-traded fund, and this is a pooled investment security that operates much like a mutual fund. Typically, ETFs will track a particular index, sector, commodity, or other asset. But unlike mutual funds, ETFs can be purchased or sold on a stock exchange the same way that a regular stock can. So it's much more convenient for investors or traders to buy and sell. An ETF can be structured to track anything from the price of an individual commodity to a large and diverse collection of securities or stocks. ETFs can even be structured to track specific investment strategies. The first ETF was the SPDR S&P 500 ETF or SPY. And I think marami pa rin bumibili ng ETF na yan. But personally for me, if I want to buy yung ETF ng S&P 500, top 500 companies in the US, I would go for VOO kasi mas mababa yung kanyang expense ratio. So yung SPY and yung VOO, tinatrack nito S&P 500 index and which remains an actively traded ETF today. And ito, yung First Metro Philippine Equity Exchange Traded Fund Incorporated or FMETF. Ang FMETF was incorporated on January 15, 2013, so around 9 years ago. It is an open-ended investment company. The fund is engaged primarily in the business of investing, reinvesting, and trading in, and issuing and redeeming its shares of stock and creation units in exchange for a basket of securities representing an index, which is the PSEI or Philippine Stock Exchange Index. The fund is a wholly owned subsidiary of First Metro Investment Corporation and is also the product being sold by the company. The fund aims to provide returns which would reflect the performance of the Philippine equities market by investing in a basket of securities which are included in the PSEI of the PSE. The portfolio of the fund is to be rebalanced and reconstituted every 6 months in order to adjust to the current composition of the PSEI. First Metro Asset Management Incorporated acts as the fund manager and principal distributor. As of December 31, 2021, FMETF is the only fund in exchange-traded fund category listed on the PSE. So, kumbaga, tayo mga Filipinos, wala tayong ibang choice. If you want to invest dito sa ETF na tinatrack yung PSEI, then FMETF lang yung ating, yung ating option. Next, so what is actually an index? An index is an indicator to measure or monitor the performance of a group of securities. So sa US stocks nga, S&P 500, and then yung meron ding Nasdaq Composite. For the PSE, its main index is the PSEI, which is composed of 30 of the largest and most liquid stocks in the Philippines. So mga blue chip stocks ito. ETFs are subject to market fluctuation, the risks of their underlying investments, management fees, and other expenses. And then ito. This was an illustration galing dun sa parang brochure ng FMETF. Two great investment vehicles brought together. So a stock are shares of ownership in a company. When you buy stocks of publicly listed company, you become a stockholder or part owner of the company. Yun yung palagi natin sinasabi, hindi lang basta prices na yung kailangan nating intindihin kapag bumibili tayo ng mga securities ng mga stocks. So, nagiging kasosyo ka, no, nung mismong kumpanya, nung malaking kumpanya. Then, yung isang factor dito or isang component is mutual fund. It is a pool of money professionally managed and invested in specific types of securities. Personally, for me, I haven't bought or invested in mutual funds yet kasi medyo mataas yung kanilang fees. And then, here comes ETF. ETF allows you to invest in a single trade in a basket of stocks of large, well-established companies. Like a regular stock, you can trade the ETF anytime, anywhere, using an online trading platform. Isang example niyan is BPI Trade or Call Financial. Investors, especially those who don't have time, I really doubt that. We can always make time, to like study the market. But yeah, can enjoy the returns of the overall market without having to actively manage their portfolio. Kumbaga, in short, this is the lazy approach. In my opinion, here in the Philippines, you don't really have... It's not necessary to invest in an ETF in the Philippines. I'm just being honest. Kasi we have like less than 300 companies here in the Philippines, and yung index natin, it only contains 30 companies. 30 of the biggest companies and most liquid companies here in the Philippines. I mean, if you don't have time to study those 30, then maybe you shouldn't be investing. But yeah, I mean, this is like for newbies, but when you dive deeper into investing and into the market, and if you want more returns and if you want to be more successful, then you have to make time, to study those companies. Kasi it's much better for you historically sa pricing, sa dividends, and sa price action ng mga stocks. It's much better, mas maganda yung performance ng portfolio mo if you just picked yung mga companies na ilalagay sa portfolio mo, hindi yung ETF yung binili mo. And yeah, we will support that with data later on. So, eto, next steps, how do I invest in FMETF? Allocate funds that you want to invest. And remember, your minimum investment will depend on the price of the ETF and the PSE minimum board lot. So, around 95 pesos yung, what they call this, yung FMETF ngayon, and then yung board lot for that price range is 100. So, around 9,500-ish. Or sabihin natin 10K yung kailangan mo para mapag-invest sa FMETF. And then number 2, open an account with any of the accredited PSE brokers. Again, madali magbukas sa BPI Trade if you have a BPI bank account. Call Financial, sobrang dali lang din mag-apply ng account or mag-open ng account. Then last step, start buying and selling the ETF shares just like any listed stocks. Ito, mga FAQs. What will happen to the dividends declared by the constituent stocks of an equity index ETF? Typically, a stock or company that is part of a larger index. The dividends may either be paid out by the ETF or reinvested into the fund. So, that's kind of weird. Kasi, I believe dapat they're paying it out dun sa mga holders ng ETF. But yeah, I mean, I should look that up more. But yung VO kasi, nagbibigay talaga sila ng dividends and sinishare nila yun sa mga holders ng ETF. But yeah, I'm not sure kung ano yung parang rule dito. But yeah, we have to research on that. Number 2, will I be able to outperform the index if I invest in ETF? The main goal of ETF is to track an index. Its objective is to mirror the current index. It is a passive fund, hence should generate returns similar to the index. And then lastly, what are the risks? As with regular stock investing, your ETF investment will also be dependent on favorable market conditions and subject to market volatility. So, yan din yung risk. So, nagpo-post. So, same din yung pinopost yung risk, no? Kumaga, mas marami ka lang pinag-investan na companies. Pero pagka beginner ka pa nga lang, like, it's much better for you to pick your own stocks and choose again from the top 30 companies dito sa Philippines na nasa PSEI nga, na nandito na sa ETF na to. And then pick the stocks that gives out the most dividends para madagdagan every single year, every single quarter, every 6 months yung capital mo. Kasi nagbibigay sila ng dividends and mataas yung binibigay nilang dividends. So, ito yung underlying securities. So, ito lahat. Huwag natin isa-isahin. Pero siguro yung mga magandang bilhin dito, in my opinion, AC Energy Corporation, ASEN, then Aboitiz Power, okay din yan. And then we have, ano pa ba? Globe, solid din yan, dividend paying stocks. LT Group, super solid. Meralco or Manila Electric Company. Then we have PLDT, Philippine Long Distance Telephone Company. And then RLC is decent as well, but hindi sila super consistent magbigay ng dividends. And yeah, that's basically it. URC nagbibigay din, but hindi ganun kalaki yung dividend yield. But yeah, those are the companies that you can look into and study instead of like buying FMETF. And now, ito nga yung last traded price ng FMETFs. Nasa 95 pesos per share siya currently. Yung 52-week high or the highest price in a span of 1 year or the past year, 115 pesos. Yung 52-week low is at 93.50 pesos. Alright, so here we are sa chart ng FMETF, and as you can see, it's not really doing that well. If you invested here, like for example, no, nahuli ka ng konti, hindi ka dito sa 80-ish pesos na kapag-start mag-invest. And then yung unang week nga nila, nag-open siya at around 88.25, lowest was 85. So kung doon ka na pag-invest, kumita ka pa rin naman ng konti, no? After what? After 9 years. Kumita ka ng around 9%. So that's not really good for almost a decade of investing, diba? I mean, if you're, lalo na pagka ang strategy natin is long term, diba? I mean, if you compare it to, what do you call this? If you compare it to, sabihin natin, VOO, diba? I mean, it's much better for you to invest here instead of sa FMETF, right? Like, sabihin natin, in 2013, and same amount of time, 130%. So, more than a double mo yung capital. Eh, yung isa, 9% lang yung binigay sa'yo. So, that's not really good. And again, sa lump sum pa lang to. Syempre, that will go down kapag ka nagka-average out ka. Pero syempre, mas maganda kapag ka, kunyari, bearish. Dito ka bumibili sa mga pababang to. Like, noong 2020, di ba? Ang laki para nung kinikita mo. And again, kung long term naman, di ba? I think mas okay na dito sa US stocks mag-invest instead of, if ETF lang din yung pag-uusapan, instead of going for the index here or ETF here sa Philippines. Kasi nga, it's kind of underperforming. But if you like traded it up until here sa all-time high, then that's a good profit, 52%. But it's kind of hard to time the market. It's almost impossible to time the market perfectly. And then, ito nga, diba? Super discounted nung price nung nag-start yung pandemic. Sabihin natin dito ka nakabili. I mean, respectable gains pa rin, 32%. It's not really that bad. But, you know, you almost timed the bottom here nung bumili ka sana. So, yeah, that's why yung sinabi ko sa inyo earlier, it's much better for you to pick your own stocks. And mas malaki dividends sa makukuha nyo. And, yeah, kung mga may mas flexible kayo. Hindi yung like, oh, naka-invest ka, diversified ka dun sa 30 stocks na. 30 stocks sa PSCI. But diba sinabi nga rin ni Warren Buffett na diversification is for people who don't know what they're doing. I mean, yeah, again, this is noob friendly. Kapag bago ka pa lang sa investing, then probably this is the way to do it para lang, you know, you can test the waters. And especially kapag ka, you know, you're making this excuse na you don't have time to study investing and the markets. I mean, yeah, in my opinion, that's just an excuse. And I mean, if we make the time then and the effort, kaya natin, you know, aralin yung stock market, manood ng video, magbasa ng libro, magbasa ng articles. So yun, again, it's much better for you to choose 3 to 5 companies out of these 30 companies na nasa PSCI na nagbibigay again ng dividends consistently, and again, continuously ka din madadagdagan yung capital mo. Even though hindi ka na mag-add, for example, galing sa active income mo kasi nag-try ka nga lang, di ba? So, every time na nagbayad ng dividend sa'yo yung isang company, pwede mong i-reinvest yun dun sa company na nagbayad sa'yo. So, di ba? Compounding interest. Alright. So, ito is isang screenshot galing sa BPI Trade. Again, yung mga ETF, well, mag-isa lang may ETF dito sa Philippines. Yung FMETF is pwedeng i-trade, buy, and sell. Parang stock lang din. So, yan, diba? Kita nyo dito, may volume, may value, may buyer, may seller, then may bid volume, bid price, ask volume, and kung ano yung number ng ask. And dito makita nyo yung mga price ranges. So, previous, open, high, low, volume, value, 52-week high, 52-week low, and then yung mga ceiling ng prices, ibig sabihin yung pinakamataas mong, for example, magsasell ka, yung pinakamataas na, what they call this, na price na pwede mong ilagay, and then yung floor, yung pinakamababa na pwede mong ilagay dun sa iyong buy order. And next one, ito yung minimum. Pagka bibili ka, around 9,528. Kasi sa price range ng FMETF ngayon na nasa 95 pesos-ish per isang FMETF, per isang share. So, ang board lot nun na required is 100. So, around 95, well, hindi 95, 9,500 yung value nun. And then, syempre, may mga charges yan, may mga tax, and kung ano pang fees, yung kinakaltas ng BPI sa'yo kada isang trade. So, yan, 28 pesos. So, bali 9528.03. Yung kailangan nyo if mag-invest kayo sa FMETF using BPI trade. And with the current market price na 95. Kasi pwede mag-fluctuate yan, especially kapag nag-open na ulit yung market later kasi Monday na ngayon. And then, ito pala. Ito rin yung hindi ganun kaganda sa FMETF. Medyo mataas yung kanyang expense ratio. So, effective from 2016 to 2018, wala pa akong makitang data from 2019 to 2021. So, ito kinuha ko lang sa isang blog din. So, sabi niya, for the past 3 years, the effective expense ratio ranged from 0.81% to 0.85%. So, that's almost 1%. So, for example, nag-invest ka sa FMETF ng 1 million pesos. So, ikakatas sa'yo, kung 0.81 is 8,100 pesos percent, diba? So that's not really good, diba? Kinakaltasan ka pa nila ng mga fees na yan, expense ratio. It's encouraging that the number is decreasing as the fund's NAV increases. This probably means that some of the expenses are fixed overhead costs that do not scale with the NAV. Paya. Again, yung sa ETF, nagbabayad ka pa ng expense ratio. And kapag kakanumpare natin yan sa SPY, nasa 0.0945% lang yung sa SPY. So, it's much lower, no? Kumpara dito sa FMETF. And then, again, kaya mas fan ako ng VOO, 0.03% lang yung expense ratio nitong ETF na to. That's why this is the one, or this is the ETF that I'm investing in, that and I'm buying passively every single month sa GoTrade. And if ever interested kayo na mag-invest sa ETF, sa S&P 500, sa mga US stocks, you can check out my link sa description sa baba. And you can sign up dun sa GoTrade, and I think meron kayong $2 or $5 na reward, or like parang free stock, something like that. And there you have it, guys. We're towards the end of this episode. Yung mga sources for today: PSE Edge, PPI Trade, Ambitious Pawn, First Metro ETF, Investopedia, and Unsplash. Lahat ng mga links niyan is matatagpuan sa description sa baba. Thanks again for watching and listening, everyone. And then natin episode here. Sana may natutunan kayo. And if umabot kayo at the end of this episode, thank you very much. I appreciate you. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if natripan nyo yung content ko. And if hindi naman, then give this video a thumbs down. Subscribe ka na sa channel ko if you're new to the channel. And click the notification bell para wala may mess out sa mga uploads ko every single day. Another way to support the channel is through the YouTube membership. May mga link ako dyan sa description sa baba if you want to know more about it. And then, if may bibili naman kayo sa Shopee or sa Lazada, meron din ako mga affiliate links dyan sa baba. And that will help support the channel even more. Thanks again for watching and listening, everyone. I really appreciate you. Stay safe and always remember, be Peso smart.